your four hosts today, Ferno9. And today we have a special guest, actually. I think I'm going to introduce first. Who are you, special man?
I am Kogi.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then my two other co-hosts, Deadpool.
I am Deadpool. Welcome back again. Nice to see y'all, or, metaphorically see y'all. Anyways, thank you again for tuning in and listening to another great episode of the High Council.
Yep. And then the man who is bringing the topic to the table today, Vector.
Hello, guys. It's me, Vector. Welcome to be back. Happy to see you all here again. Can't wait to get started.
Amazing. We don't have Gus today. Why? We don't know. But we know that we don't have him. But, Kogi was a special guest who wanted to step in, so we got him, which is just as good. All right? So, Kogi also has a topic that he's going to bring to the table. But I think we're going to take that one last, Save the best to last, they say. So, I think that, we can keep that in. And then, Vector, what is the topic for today that we're going to start off with that is not horror-related? Because, we want to go back to the roots that we come from, which, in this case, it wasn't
Star
horror.
Wars.
Yeah, exactly.
So today, I have a very spicy thing I want to talk about. We are going to talk about the tragedy of Darth Vader and why it's such a big impact on the Star Wars universe.
Brilliant. Right.
That's exactly what we're talking about today.
Yeah. So, Vector, do you want to start off by, kind of introducing the topic, maybe, or just go a bit into it and what the situation is here?
Well, I'm glad you asked me, because really the whole Star Wars saga is built around the tragedy of Anakin turning into Darth Vader and how it has affected the universe as a whole. As a young boy, Anakin wanted to be a Jedi, and he idolized them. And then as he grew up in his order, he found out that the order was not as he wanted it to be. They were corrupted, they were unapologetic in their ways, and they were blinded to the truth. And they shunned him away and treated him different. And it caused internal turmoil within him and caused him to turn to different routes to save the people he loved. And that one mistake of the Jedi Order is what caused Darth Vader to rise and the Jedi to fall. Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty well summed up, The entire story is obviously, very tragic, and part of the reason that he turns to the dark side is obviously, as you said, like the Jedi end up failing Anakin as well. So, and anyone else have anything that they kind of want to throw in that they think is interesting, something that happens to Anakin or Vader that they think might be very important to either Anakin's turn to the dark side or his growth within it as Vader? No?
Yeah, I think, sorry, I was giving everyone a chance to kind of pitch in before me.
Yeah.
But I think what really kind of fueled the hate inside of him is the betrayal from his master / brother, and then the death of his lover at the same instance. And even though she didn't die from that moment, that's what Palpatine told him, that he killed her, and it was kind of just what really fueled the fire of hate inside of him and turned him to this, iconic Sith, even though he wasn't technically a Sith Lord. But
yeah,
in my opinion, he wasn't far from one. I mean, he was the epitome of what a Sith Lord should be.
Yeah. I mean, it's often discussed, how powerful was he really, and to me, I think that obviously Palpatine put a few limitations in his way, but I think that even with those limitations, I don't really think there's much argument to be had around that he is, even with the limitations, he's still one of, some might even say, the strongest Sith ever. He's definitely one of them. He's definitely up there. Now, obviously, he's not like Darth Nihilus and he feeds off an entire planet just to fucking get some fucking food in him. But, there's just his general power. I mean, he slaughtered hundreds of Jedi on his own. He went into the fucking Jedi temple. Yes, he had a few clones with him, but most of that came from him. Like the raw power that Anakin had still transferred over to Vader. Obviously, you know, some of the potential power might have been lost, but his potential power was such a high reach that it doesn't really matter that he lost a tiny bit of it, because you see that he still ends up becoming a massive powerhouse, really. And like people talk about, like, you know, like, oh, episode 6, well, how did he lose to Luke? Well, there are a few things that you could probably step in with on how he lost to Luke, but you know, there's a lot to discuss around the character of Vader, really. You know, whether it be canon or just general comics. You know, there's a lot to digest with the character, really.
And really, the funny thing is that in the Revenge of the Sith novelization, it said that Vader lost like 80%. He was capped at 80% of his power being lost with his hand cut off and his flesh being burned. The nerve damage was so bad for him that he could never reach his full potential after that. But even with all those limitations, he was more powerful than genuinely anybody else around him except for Palpatine and Luke. Those were the only two people in the whole galaxy that ever stood a chance to him. And even with those limitations, he was leagues above everybody else around him. And that's got it. I can't even imagine how more powerful Vader would have been had he fully turned and had not had those limitations around him. Like it's astronomical to think about.
Yeah.
How powerful he could have been had he not been burned alive.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think with that, his limitations. I mean, even with 80% of his limitations being, or 80% of his power being taken away. Sorry, I think even with that, you said that Luke was the only one who was more powerful than him. I would argue the fact. I don't think that he was. I think that they were either on par with each other or Vader was better than him. And the only reason that Luke ever stood a chance of winning is because Anakin was still like on the verge of being good inside, and he was giving him a chance. He was like, "This is my son. I don't want to like kill my son." You know what I mean? His main mission was to get Luke to join him, and never once did he say he was going to kill him. Yeah, he killed Obi-Wan, but he had a deep-rooted hate for Obi-Wan. He never really had a hate for Luke.
Yeah.
It's crazy because Luke, as you were saying, like Anakin was actively fighting Vader in that fight. Like you can see the turmoil. Like he's not really going all out with Luke against him, and on the Death Star too. Like he's not fighting at his full potential against Luke. He lets Luke actually kind of beat him because Anakin's fighting him to gain control over again. Because you can see after Vader loses against him and the Emperor's destroyed, that's not Vader talking to him anymore. That's Anakin.
Yeah.
He resurfaced after all that time. So yeah, Anakin was basically fighting Vader in the suit while fighting Luke at that time. So that's really why Anakin won, is because Anakin was stepping in to take over Vader.
Yeah. I feel like the general there's a general conflict, I feel, within Vader, probably the entire time that he is Vader. There's probably a middle section where there probably is no Anakin, but I feel like throughout, you have the start of, the Empire and his beginning as Vader. I think that there's always been a bit of a conflict within him, and you even see in Rebels when he's fighting Ahsoka in the temple, and when she cuts open his mask, which is an epic scene, by the way. I fucking love that scene. And then all of a sudden you hear both voices, and I think you'll see a bit in him, and you hear him when he talks, like even obviously you hear the Anakin voice because the mask is open, but I'm pretty sure you can see that he probably doesn't really want to kill Ahsoka at all. But Vader is also fighting against Anakin, and Anakin is fighting against Vader. And I think that's probably reoccurring throughout the entire time.
That scene does give me goosebumps to hear.
Yeah.
Just to hear the similarities between Vader and Anakin whenever he speaks to Ahsoka is, oh my god, I absolutely adore that scene.
Yeah.
But really, the saddest part about Vader to me is the fact that he was truly alone in the galaxy without Palpatine. Like, he had nobody.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he would just sit in his little back tank and float around and dream of Padme because he was alone. He had no one to relate to until he found out Luke was his son. Vader was completely alone. That's why he was so up to take of Luke and recruit him for the Empire, because he finally had that familial bond that he reconnected to his past Jedi brothers and sisters, and to Obi-Wan. Like, that familial bond is something that's always strived within Anakin. That's why he loved Ahsoka so much. That's why he loved Padme so much. That's why he loved Obi-Wan so much. And all of that love turns to hatred as soon as his goals are stripped away from him, and as soon as his dreams are crushed. Because the one thing Anakin loves more than anything is familial bond.
Yeah.
And it all came crashing down whenever his mother died. So I think familial bond is the most sacred thing to Anakin. And so that's why it kind of got brought back up whenever he found out Luke was his son and Leia was his daughter.
Yeah.
He did jump from bond to bond, from his mother to Qui-Gon to Obi-Wan and so on. I am here, by the way. It's just you have literally breaking my mind into different levels, and I'm just thinking about it myself in silence, thinking,
Yeah.
So this being your topic, Kogi, what's your point on it? Because you said you had some other different thoughts on it from when we spoke about it before. What is your point of view on this subject?
So
Yes, please enlighten
my
us.
topic, actually, Ferno mentioned it earlier, was about Luke defeating Vader. Obviously, Vader, before he came even in contact with Luke, had already defeated hundreds of Jedis, Jedi Knights, even Jedi Masters. And I just thought, in your opinions, how is Vader defeated quite so easily on the Death Star against Luke?
Yeah.
Well, I have two things that go with that. Point number one is that the time skip between Bespin Luke and Tatooine Luke, when we first see him, whenever he steps into his almost to his master role, like, he did a lot of training under Yoda and under Obi-Wan, and studied a lot, and he grew immensely powerful in the Force. So he was not the same kid fighting. He was not the same Luke fighting him on Bespin, who was just measly sparring with him.
Yeah.
Luke had really come into his own as his own Jedi, because he reconstructed his lightsaber based upon Obi-Wan's design.
Yeah.
As a kind of mementos to him, and to study under him, and to really become the Jedi he was meant to be. And number two, as I just said earlier, it was Vader wasn't really fighting Anakin. I mean, Vader wasn't really fighting Luke at that time. It was Anakin fighting Vader. So he was already conflicted on two sides, to kill his son and to kill off Anakin again to be Vader. So he was fighting on two fronts. So he wasn't in the right mindset to really be fighting Luke at that time. And I think that's those two factors is what brings Luke to beat Vader in that fight.
Yeah, that's my thought as well on it, which I think I actually spoke about yesterday. I think is my thought is that from the moment that they meet on Endor, when Vader talks to Luke, from then on, he's conflicted, because it's clear that he wants Luke on his side and doesn't want to be under the Emperor anymore. He wants those two to be together. And I think that
it's his new dream.
Yeah. And from that moment on, through flying up to the Death Star and having the conversation with Palpatine and all that, I think that there's a constant conflict within Vader of what he wants to do. As you said, he's not in the right mindset to fight. Whilst Luke, I think that Luke, yes, it's clear that in the battle he is driven a bit by rage, as you see when he hammers down at the end, cuts off Vader's hand. But I think that the difference is, I think that Luke went into this clearly because, it was his plan to, give himself up as well. I think that his motive was so clear that he didn't go off it. I think that his goal and his motive was so clear that he stuck on that. Whilst Vader, he switched. He was conflicted. And when he is not in the right mindset, whilst Luke is set on this goal, I think that even with how powerful Vader is, because I would say in that battle, Vader is still probably more powerful than Luke, but it's the mindset. The mindset is the fall of him. And yes, obviously, the conflict between Anakin and Vader, but I think that it's just that general conflict within him of what to do now. And he doesn't want to kill Luke, realistically, I think. In any way, shape, or form, really. And then I think he's also probably maybe getting sick of Palpatine. And I think that he is just not in the right mindset. So therefore, he loses the battle to Luke because of his conflicting mindset and Luke's determination to get his goal done in this situation.
Well, when you think about it, think of how many no-name Jedi that Vader has slain over the years, just constantly trucking through and just massacring all these Jedi. Yeah. And then now he has to put all of those faces to his son.
Yeah.
Like, all the other no-name Jedi were nothing to him. They were fodder. But now he has to cut down one more familial bond. And he just got it. Like, just recently got to be somewhat connected to his son.
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't even imagine that kind of conflict. Like, oh, whatever, I'll kill any Jedi that stands in my way. But then you put my son in front of me with the same title? Oh, I couldn't do that.
At the same
time,
Vader
can't do either.
And at this time, he's still kind of getting over that interior battle he has where he, in his mind, he killed Padme. So that's one other person he held dear that he has killed. He killed Obi-Wan at this point. So he had a hate for him, but he still loved him because that was his master. That was who trained him. That's who raised him. Because Qui-Gon died early on in life. So early on in Anakin's life. So Anakin is the one who killed his father figure at this point in life. And his wife at the time as well. And I think he had an internal battle with himself, Anakin and Darth Vader, saying the Darth Vader side saying just kill him, it'll be over with. And Anakin is struggling with this because it's another person close to home that he has to kill. And you brought up a good point where you said, yes, he has struck down hundreds of Jedi before this, but it was like I don't really care about them. It's I don't know them. It's not my problem kind of deal. But then whenever you put someone who is connected with you and you have that bond that you can't really describe because they are your son and you have to kill that person, then it just brings on a whole nother ball game. And it's hard for him. And like I was saying before, I think that's why instead of trying to kill Luke, he was always trying to get Luke to join him. Yeah. Because then it takes that hard responsibility of striking him down away from him, and he didn't have to deal with it.
He never offered any other Jedi the type of recruitment that he offered Luke. Like at almost every point in time, even during the Bespin fight, he was always offering to just join me, stop fighting me, join me. Yeah. That's all he wanted to talk about with Luke, but he never offered any other Jedi that type of luxury or sympathy.
This time, correct me if I'm wrong, this time Bespin's the first time he actually comes face to face with Luke. And
it is. It's his first time.
His first time.
This is the son that he thought he'd lost however many years ago with Padme.
Yeah.
He's still unaware.
He didn't even know it existed until recently.
He's still unaware he's got a daughter. He thought, I've lost the unborn child with Padme, and suddenly, whoa, I've got a son. So, of course, it must have been emotional for Vader too. So, I think that's when the conflict within him first triggers.
Yeah.
And he first thinks,
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
And I think with that too, that being said, in his eyes, Luke is his only heir. Immediately you can tell the Force is stronger in Luke than in Padme, obviously. Or I mean, than in Leia. My bad. The Force is stronger in Luke than in Leia, obviously, because Darth Vader was 5 feet away from Leia at one point on the ship, and he couldn't sense anything in her. Whereas Luke was Luke was in space, like you don't even know how many miles away, and he just automatically knew that Luke was there just because he could sense the Force.
Yeah. I also think
Well,
that,
it really happened after the Death Star. Whenever he got done battling, whenever he cut down Obi-Wan, you can see he flicks to Luke, and he only focuses on Luke. That was his next target because he felt something in that connection after the main Force user was gone. You could see him trace his eyes to Luke, and I think that's when he started to suspect something.
Yeah.
And then later on, it was confirmed. He confirmed it with himself, but he didn't, like you said, he didn't even recognize Leia as a Force user. But I'll bet anything that he could recognize Luke as a Force user after the Death Star blew up.
Absolutely.
I mean, there was that time with when Luke actually destroyed the first Death Star. He could sense it in his from Vader's starship to his. He didn't know that was Luke, but he immediately sensed that it was.
Yeah, he even says the Force is strong with this one.
Yeah,
he legit
exactly,
says that.
Yeah.
And I think with the Obi-Wan scene when he strikes down Obi-Wan and the body disappears, whenever he's stepping on the cloak, as in my eyes, this is my opinion, I feel like he's checking to see what kind of like trick this was, because Obi-Wan was known for mind tricks and using the Force to trick people. So he's stepping on the cloak, and then he senses Luke's Force because Luke had high emotions at that point. So obviously the Force was radiating off of him. So he turns and looks at him. I think that might have been he thought that Obi-Wan somehow got over there. So he was going to turn to, try to continue the fight, and then realized it wasn't Obi-Wan, it was Luke. And then that was when he was like, we got to find who this is.
Sure.
I think because of the amount of the Force that was radiating off Luke, I think that plays a part in him trying to recruit him to the Sith as well, instead of just trying to kill him like he did everybody else.
Yeah, and you also you see throughout Vader's time as well. He creates bonds with certain people that he ends up losing. Like, you had the female officer,
as
I
Mom?
believe. No, as Vader.
Oh, as Vader, yeah. The female officer
for example, you have the female officer that she got a bit too close, and he ended up killing her. But the biggest one for me is the clone. The one clone that actually befriended Vader, because as we talked about with it, the clones they just followed orders really. But then you have this one clone that decides to talk with him, and they became friends. And
really, yeah.
Like the distraught that when he accidentally strikes him down. Like you see the rage that came from him then, and him just. The feels that he got after he struck him down. He was like, my only friend is now dead, because it obviously probably reminded him of Rex, but also, he wasn't as lonely anymore when he was on the field or in general.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I also think that with the whole Rex ordeal, I think with the turn from Anakin to Darth Vader, and you kind of never really see the true emotions that he had towards Rex. You can see him with Ahsoka. I mean, you see him in damn guys, I'm blanking. Sorry, the show.
Clone Wars.
Clone Wars.
Or Rebels.
Yeah. Rebels.
Yeah, Rebels and Clone Wars both, actually, now that you said Clone Wars. Yeah. You can see the emotion he had towards her, and you can only assume that with how close him and Rex were, it would be the same. I think with him cutting down it goes back to him cutting down the unfamiliar Jedi, but it was hard for him fighting Ahsoka whenever his eye was showing in Rebels, and he kind of like realizes what's going on, and he comes to a little bit, and then you can see the Darth Vader inside of him come back out. I think that was another instance of him fighting that internal battle where he didn't want to kill Ahsoka. He didn't want to fight her in that way and in that instance as he did.
Yeah.
Well, he had to separate her being from Ahsoka to her being a Jedi, because Anakin recognized her as Ahsoka, but Vader recognized her as a Jedi. And as we all know, the Jedi is the amalgamation of every failure that's been brought upon Anakin.
Mhm.
And Anakin and Vader blames the Jedi for every bad thing to go wrong in his life. His mother dying, his wife dying, all of his friends being dead, and him being alone, and them failing him and not giving him what he correctly deserved,
Yeah.
and them betraying him. So those are the two ideologies that he has to separate. In
Yeah.
the Revenge of the Sith novelization, Obi-Wan clearly states that Anakin's different because he values friendship and loyalty above everything else.
Yeah.
And of course, he recognizes that in Ahsoka. So he has to fight his two most valued ideologies to kill the Jedi or to save his friend. And that's what he was doing with Ahsoka. And that's what he was doing the same thing with Luke.
Yeah.
To kill this Jedi or save my son. And it lost with Ahsoka, but it won with Luke.
But I also think that there's one thing is that obviously you talked about this with the friendship and the loyalty, and I think that's also one place where I feel that he felt like the Jedi felt him in a different way is the appreciation. The Jedi didn't appreciate the fact that they had someone like Anakin amongst them.
Did not.
They didn't appreciate that.
didn't
Like
know.
like being the chosen one is one thing, but with his skill and what he did, like they didn't appreciate it, and that also shows a lack of loyalty in their part. Is that you don't appreciate what you have here, you neglect it in a sense. You don't give. They didn't give Anakin what he deserved, rightfully deserved as well, and it just showed a lack of knowledge of the concept of loyalty and appreciation.
Well,
Yeah,
also there's
absolutely.
the fact that Mace Windu and the rest of the Jedi Council were honestly afraid of Anakin's power level. They all knew that besides Yoda, Anakin was the most powerful person in the room.
Yeah.
Every time they came in, they always sensed that power, that rage, that little bit of rage every time. Even Mace Windu sensed it every time Anakin looked at him and talked to him, because Mace Windu was his biggest opposition in the Jedi Council.
Yeah.
And that's something everyone knows.
Mm-hmm.
At all times, Mace Windu is constantly belittling his skill, belittling his leadership as a Jedi, and at all turns he feels like he'll never be worthy enough to sit with them. And that's just something that Anakin can't live with, to not feel worthy, to not know who he is, because the people he wants to aspire to be never accept him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and of course that's another stage towards him transitioning to Darth Vader. That amount of distrust that the Jedi give him, he was never treated the same. As far as I'm aware, the only person who got accepted into the council but not granted the rank of master.
Yep.
And
It's the
obviously,
first
Yeah,
time
he
ever.
says it's never happened in the whole history of the
Yeah,
Jedi Order.
yeah,
That's
Yeah.
just the amount of disrespect that they gave
Yeah.
him, and they only did it begrudgingly because of Chancellor Palpatine.
Yeah.
Like, could you imagine like being a part of a club but not being able to do anything in the club? Like, that's
You're the
stupid,
only
and that's
person ever
exactly
to
what
not
they
do
did to
it.
him.
yeah.
And
There's
Kogi,
the
you brought up the fact that the tragedy of Darth Vader, and in your opinion, what would you consider to be the root of all the tragedy that is Darth Vader, that became the uprising of Darth Vader?
Well, the two biggest factors which we've already talked about would obviously be the amount of distrust that the Jedi have given through the years. Obviously, constantly not being treated the same, And of course, since his mother passing, all he ever wanted was that bond, and he just kept losing that bond one after one. And I think eventually that was it. And then, of course, Palpatine's seen his moment to create that bond, and yeah, he just timed it really well.
Oh, I completely forgot how Palpatine was really his. Even though it was a lie, it was really his only trustworthy bond that he had.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because Palpatine basically was like his father. It was like another father figure to him that let him just let him feel emotions, let him be upset, let him be sad, let him be discouraged, and then always uplifted him. That's something the Jedi never did to him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And those
Yeah.
little small details is what gained Anakin over to Palpatine's side every step of the way of every little day.
Yeah, because of course, the only people Anakin never knew was Jedi. Obviously, you know, emotions frowned upon, and well, Palpatine's the only ever friend he had who was not Jedi, giving him that chance to show emotion and, like you said, basically just talk about anything.
Yeah, I mean, like you see also there's so many, no, not many, there's so few Jedi that actually show any sort of respect and appreciation for Anakin. I think that the only Jedi that I would say show a good sense, some good common sense in comics and TV shows and whatever is, well, when it comes to people around Anakin, obviously you have Ahsoka. I would say that Obi-Wan, even though I would say that he is part of failing him and turning him to Vader, I would say that he does that from time to time. Plo Koon, I would definitely say, is a card that people might not realize enough, is someone that was very respective in that sense as well. There aren't many other names that really pop up when I think about it, like Kit Fisto, obviously, but Anakin didn't have too much to do with him, really. So there are so few Jedi that had the ability to have common sense and also show themselves as a friend to Anakin. There's so few that did that, and I think that that's also a massive issue, because obviously you have a few Jedi that they bounce together very well, but you have so few that showed it to Anakin specifically.
Well, I'd like to take a snippet out of the Clone Wars episode. It was during when Ahsoka got captured and she got taken to the Trandoshan homeworld.
Yeah.
You can see the turmoil within Anakin as he makes the entire 501st look for her.
Yeah.
At every step of the way. And it's the only one, Plo Koon, even though he tells Anakin that looking for her on this world is useless, he argues with Anakin over staying and leaving. And it's Plo Koon who gives him the final order that this is foolish, it's time to go, you'll never find her on this world. And that's small, it's very small and minute, but you could really read or argue the fact that Plo Koon is the only other Jedi that would have wanted to help him find Ahsoka. Because really Ahsoka is connected to Plo Koon as well, because Plo Koon raised her.
Yeah.
Recruited her. So that type of we're on the same bond would mean a lot to Anakin, because no other Jedi would have had the gall to say that to Anakin about his Padawan, except for someone like Plo Koon who had the same connection with him.
And also the difference as well that I think is most Jedi would have just said, probably
she's
like,
dead, let her go.
Yeah, or like it's a lost cause, or like it's not gonna happen. Plo Koon specifically said, which I also have to pick out in the words, is he said, "You'll not find her in this world, or on this planet, or whatever it is that he says." Right? He says specifically, "You won't find her here." He doesn't say give her up, you won't find her. He says you won't find her here. And that is also a massive thing that some Jedi show over others. Mace Windu would have just said, let's just keep on going with the mission. Just leave her or she'll whatever, right? He would have said something completely different. But you won't find her here makes a massive difference in the long run, realistically.
Oh, yeah. And so I know where I stand on this question I'm about to ask. because I've supported this side of the Star Wars universe and lore my entire upbringing and ever since I got into it. But the topic is, the tragedy that is Darth Vader. Would y'all consider, with how the Jedi Council is and how they raised him and how they neglected him, more or less, would y'all consider it to be a tragedy that he became Darth Vader, or would y'all consider it a blessing for him? Yes, he was constantly in pain and he constantly had battles within himself, but I think, potentially he became and got granted more power and more say in anything than he ever would have being in the Jedi Council.
Well, I never looked at it from that point of view. He really got rid of all the people in his life who belittled him and didn't respect him. And basically, without him knowing, even though he killed the Jedi Order, he basically restarted it within his son.
Yeah.
And this
Yeah.
gives new opportunity after Luke rises to change the entire way the Jedi Order functions.
And
Because after Vader dies and Luke takes the Jedi Council and restarts the Jedi Order, they don't operate the same way they did in Anakin's timeline, which is honestly what they needed to do for the best. Because for thousands of years before Anakin, the Jedi were at constant peace. They had no run-ins with the Sith. That's why they were also so freaked out when Maul showed up, because they said that they hadn't shown up in a long time. So they just became corrupted within the Senate
yeah.
and the politics of the Republic. So basically, they needed a restart because they had lost their way.
I think that it's a good mix of a good mix of both. I would say, because I think other than certain issues that he had with the Jedi, I think he had it pretty. This is gonna might sound dumb, but I think he actually had it pretty okay. Obviously, he had Ahsoka, who was definitely someone he could talk to. He had Rex. Occasionally, there are some things, not everything, but there are things he could share with Obi-Wan. He had people around him that he trusted, which I think is very good. Obviously, there are some other Jedi as well, and then there are a lot of Jedi that he didn't trust. But I think that the bond that he had there is something that you can't buy. So he was very fortunate to have those three around him, and Padme, who he trusted. But then also, within the Empire, there were ups and downs between him and Palpatine, obviously. But I think obviously, there's pros and cons to both, really. Yeah, I think there are multiple ways to look at both of them. Actually, a really good question. I'm not quite sure where I sit on it. I would just say that there's pros and cons, really.
Wait, what was the question? I missed it.
So the question is, this is Kogi's topic being the tragedy that is Darth Vader. But would you consider it a tragedy where he became Darth Vader, or more of a blessing, because he does hold more power and more say over anything now that he's in the Republic or in the Empire than he did when he was in the Jedi Council, or what he ever would have had being in the Jedi Council? I mean, now he runs second in command of the entire Empire.
There's just an answer to that question, and all we have to do is look at his prophecy. The Chosen One is meant to balance the Force, and when we look at the word balance, it means that two equal sides. So there were hundreds of Jedi, but 2 Sith. So how do you balance that out? Get rid of the rest of the Jedi and balance it out with the Sith. Yeah. And as soon as that happened, the two Sith warriors died, Palpatine and Vader. And so all that was left was Luke to restart it. So it is a blessing, because he ultimately did out what he was supposed to do. He balanced the Force, because it was incredibly out of line with all the Jedi and just not enough Sith to balance out the Force's needs. So it's a blessing that he got rid of the Jedi Order, because of how corrupt it was and how really overstayed their welcome was within the Force and how they were not using the Force to its fullest potential. They needed to be taken out, as sad as it is, because their order was corrupt
Yeah.
Yeah.
and they needed a restart.
The
But
entire
Definitely.
ideology.
I doubt Luke saw whenever he was reading the sacred text. That meme, the sacred text, that the Jedi were in type of any type of political turmoil in their Republic days. Whenever he was studying that, I doubt that was even a thought in his mind. But in the reality, that the Senate, and the Jedi, as much as they wanted to be separated, were now together.
Yeah. All right. Anyone else have anything specific they want to add to that?
Not to that now.
All right. Should we?
I'm sorry, I love this
Kogi,
topic. I love everything
Yeah.
about Vader.
Yeah. So, just I'm not gonna lie, while you're on topic, I started going down a little mind path, and I just thought of So basically, I've got a question for you all. So, just soon as Anakin becomes Vader, he's just been to the Jedi Temple and did what he had to do there. He's just gone to Mustafar and defeated all the Separatist leaders. And when Padme gets there and confronts Vader, right now Vader's very emotional. Like I said, he's just did all that. And the only thing that is really on his mind now that he really cares about is Padme. Now, if Obi-Wan didn't appear, obviously in the ship, and that's when obviously Anakin really becomes overcome by rage, do you feel personally like Padme could have possibly brought Vader back? Anakin back, sorry.
Shoot, that's
That's a good
a very
question.
tough question considering how much damage Vader had already caused. He massacred hundreds of Jedi, slaughtered younglings, and then just went on a straight murdering spree of all the Separatist leaders that had put him in a war that he really didn't want to be into. So that's a very hard question, but honestly, I think Padme's love for him would trump Vader's hatred for the Jedi Order. Because all
Absolutely.
Vader really wanted was to just have a family with Padme, and he didn't care how that happened. So honestly, I think with enough coaxing and enough talking, she would have snapped through to him to see, look at all that you've done. This isn't the man I loved. And I bet you with that sentence right there,
Yeah.
it would have changed him. I
Yeah,
bet
so
you
Yeah,
that would have
absolutely.
changed
I'm
him.
going to change that question. Obviously, like you've just said there, he's obviously massacred hundreds at the Jedi Temple. There's no going back to the Jedi Order. Do you think he could have abandoned his journey down the Sith side? Do you reckon he could have just run away with her? Or,
I doubt. Not with Palpatine's control of the galaxy. In order for Vader to live truly happy, he would have had to take his next goal would have had to take out Palpatine, and in his current form, I believe he could have done that because Palpatine was going to hunt him down regardless for abandoning him
Absolutely.
as his newly apprentice.
Yeah.
So there's nowhere in the galaxy Anakin and Padme could have lived in peace. He would have had to. At the end of the day, he was going to have to kill Palpatine because Palpatine was not going to let his prized pupil just wander off and not do his bidding, not be his slave anymore. That was not going to happen.
Yeah, I feel that. Deadpool, you got anything to add?
Yeah, so I think that question, I think the only way things would have changed for that situation when Padme shows up in front of Anakin and he's just enraged at the moment. I think the only way that could have changed is if Obi-Wan would not have snuck on to that ship. I think if it was literally just straight Padme and him in the situation talking, I think that would have worked. I think that way he would have realized that this isn't who she wanted, and their love and their family won't start with the path that he's walking down. But I think with how the situation was, where Obi-Wan did appear on the ship and confront Anakin in the way that he did, I think yes, that did put the final nail in the coffin per se. But if it was just Padme and him, like you said, she would say, "Hey, this isn't the man that I loved," and he would change his ways. yes, he would be exiled from the Jedi Council. I don't think he would have cared. He may have been sentenced to death, but I believe him and Padme, with the love they had, they would just run away and put themselves into hiding, more than likely on Tatooine, because that seems to be where everybody decides to run away to. But yeah,
That's everyone's hiding place.
I think essentially the thing that kind of made that situation what unfolded to what we have seen is Obi-Wan appearing off that ship that she didn't even know he was on. I think that was really the driving force that finalized his transition into Darth Vader.
Yeah.
He wasn't at the time enraged when he was just speaking to Padme. Once he's seen Obi-Wan, that was it. He just snapped. That was
over.
Yeah.
Full
'Cause all
Vader.
he could see was the Jedi using another person he loved to make
Yeah.
them do what they wanted.
Yeah.
That's all he saw in Obi-Wan. Because all the Jedi did was tell him what to do and how to do it, and forcing him to do things he didn't want to do. So the moment he saw Obi-Wan, that all came back. Oh, you're just gonna use my wife to do what you want with me? Oh fuck, that's not gonna happen. That's absolutely not gonna happen.
And I also think that, I think also another route that Padme could possibly have used is the children.
Oh my god, dude! If she had
used that, I think
think of the kid.
I think that's an instant turn. I think that's an instant, like, I think that's when, like, that's, like the moments when people's faces drop and stuff like that. I think that as soon as she goes, think about this, think about the family we're about to have or something like that, I think that's when he drops. But I think
she already knew that she had twins at that point.
Yeah. But
she I have twins, like, oh my god.
But even if she hadn't, even if she didn't, still one kid at least, I think that would still have done it as well.
Be more than enough.
Yeah, but I think, okay, so one kind of, because I agree with you guys, but as we have said, I love to play devil's advocate, and in this sense, I'm going to twist the script a bit, guys, and that is, if Obi-Wan hadn't been on it, I don't, in this case, obviously Anakin does all this to save Padme because he's had a vision, which even Yoda tells him it's a vision, it's the future that you're seeing essentially. Mm-hmm. I think that okay, let's say that Obi-Wan isn't on it. Okay, all right, we have Padme here. She has just flipped Anakin's faith back to not joining Palpatine. What about the vision? Because the only reason Padme dies is because Palpatine uses her power to keep Anakin up. So, if he isn't on the verge of death, then she isn't gonna die either. Which means that
if Anakin had been there for the birth, then they both would have survived.
And then his visions wouldn't have been true. And in that case, he's just done all this for no reason. Obviously, obviously, there ends up technically being no reason, anyways, because she dies, but she dies to keep him alive, and his goal is to keep them both alive. So, okay, yes, what happens is a failed mission, but if he doesn't end up losing the fight to Obi-Wan and almost dying, then he has done all this for nothing in a completely different sense than just losing to Obi-Wan and then failing. It's a completely different story. And I also think that the entire point of him being there, again, is to save Padme. And then what happens?
That's always been his goal.
Yeah. So what then happens if she convinces him, he gets on the ship with her, they fly back, then what happens? All right, okay, he's going to prepare to kill Palpatine, but how is he going to do that? Okay, he's going to get Obi-Wan and a few more people? All right, okay, cool. But what's going to happen to him? And all of this, there's so much to go through. Like an alternate story to this, where Anakin doesn't turn, I think would be so complicated because there are so many variables to take in how the story would go, and there's so many solutions to it, and there's so many things that they could do and that Anakin could do and should do. So you kind of wonder, okay, well, what's going to happen? What about the clones? Because they've just executed Order 66. So if Anakin turns back, even though they're under his command, well, what is going to happen? Like, I think, because, like, I don't even think, because Anakin is one of the few people that actually look at the clones as humans. So what do they do?
That and Plo Koon did.
Yeah, exactly. You know, there's so few Jedi that do that, and I don't even think that Anakin will want to do it. It's like, it's like that meme, you know, when they're walking into the temple and there's like a zoom in of two of the clones just behind Anakin, where it's like, dude, I'm so glad Anakin is with us. I wouldn't want to fight him at all.
Yeah.
It's like they would have got their ass whooped, and it's like, you know, you kind of wonder, like, okay, well, what would have happened? Because I think that. Obviously, you know, as I said, it's a very good question, Kogi. I think that the answer is so complex and there's so many variables to be taken in that I don't think we could just come in with such a simple answer as, yeah, I think her alone would have been able to convince him, and, you know, he just has to kill Palpatine now. I'm not saying that that's what we did. I'm just saying I think that there's so much to take in via a question like that it will probably take us hours to even figure out what a good, correct, and realistic story for that would be. I think that's such a complex theory to go through that I think that we could probably make fucking 5 podcasts, 2 hours, all of them, and we still wouldn't have gotten a, you know, satisfying answer.
Exactly. That's a very loaded question.
Yeah.
That's just the first thing that came off my head, because if he does run away with if his goal is to run away with Padme, then I only said he would have to go after Palpatine because Palpatine would go after him.
Yeah.
Because he's not going to lose a prize pupil. He's not, because that's the only thing Palpatine wanted was Vader.
Yeah.
That's all he really wanted. So for him to just say, no, I'm not doing this anymore, and run away with his wife, Palpatine would have never allowed that type of insubordinance in his apprentice.
Mm-hmm.
He would have never allowed it. So that's why I think that Palpatine would have gone after Vader, and Vader would eventually, to save his wife and his kids, if they're both there together, to take out Palpatine for them to live in peace.
Mm-hmm.
See, I don't think that Padme would have let Anakin go after Palpatine, because you have to think here, at no point did Padme ever know that Palpatine was evil, that Palpatine had transitioned Anakin into Vader. And she just seen it as Anakin killing innocents. And perhaps she could have thought that Palpatine was still just an innocent man. Like, she's seen him at the Senate.
Yeah.
You know? Just
well, even then, Padme had her suspicions about him.
Yeah.
Like, that quote that democracy dies with thunderous applause is a direct quote that she thinks he's a tyrannical dictator who's been in power for way too long. So even from the start, she's never really liked Palpatine.
Yeah.
Do you think that would have been a justifiable reason for her to let Anakin go and kill him, though?
No, not for that. But after I think Anakin tells...
Yeah, explains it to her.
All the things that he promised her, that he promised him, and all the things that he's been talking, I think Padme would have put together bro, he's using you, straight up,
yeah.
All that stuff is a lie.
And Padme is also one of the few politicians that she has common sense. So I think that when she listens to Anakin and she hears that what has been happening, why he's done this, and what has been going on, I think that she will wholeheartedly just support him. I don't think she will even probably question it, because she knows Anakin. She knows that Anakin wouldn't just fucking make up a story just to kill Chancellor Palpatine because of whatever. She knows that if Anakin says that the Chancellor has done something wrong, she'll definitely listen to that. And also because she knows what bond they've had as well, him and Palpatine. So it's kind of like what we said about Plo Koon and Ahsoka. When Plo Koon says you're not going to find her here, it's the same thing. If Anakin says something that the Chancellor, who's been one of his only friends, if he says something negative about him, then you could probably take that as gospel straight away. It's the same with the Plo Koon. Plo Koon and Ahsoka had this as pretty much a strong bond as Anakin and Ahsoka. But when Plo Koon out of everyone says, you're not gonna find her here. Stop the search. That's when you go, okay, well, if you're saying that, then okay, I'll listen. I think it's the same situation here with, okay, well, Anakin, you look at this guy as almost the father figure that you never had. And if you're then saying that he is evil and he's no good and he needs to be destroyed, okay, well, I'm going to listen to that. I think it's the same kind of situation in this case.
So something I was just thinking about that kind of brings us back to a few minutes ago. We were talking about it, about Padme. Would she be able to, bring him back, be able to live with him after knowing what he's done? And I think it was Vector that said he has done so much that there'd be no way that they could go back to being with each other. Well, the thing is, like, I was thinking, he did tell her about when he murdered the whole clan of Sand people.
Yeah, the Tusken Raiders.
Yeah,
the Tusken Raiders.
He literally slaughtered all of them, and he said the women and children too. Like, he just committed genocide, and she just was like, okay, and like hugged him and kissed him, and was like nothing ever happened. So I think even though he just murdered the entire, like, Senate and all the younglings and all these leaders, military leaders, I think she would just be like, you know what, fuck it, we're together. I don't care.
He killed Jedi Bob, bro.
Yeah, I mean, it's already happened once. Like, just whatever at this point. It's not like it's something new to her.
It's like here he goes again.
Anakin's got a high kill list for a Jedi.
Yeah.
He's murdered a lot of people. So I don't think that's too out of his. Well, the thing is that Anakin's only really murdered for two reasons: to save someone, or if someone's wronged him. That's his only two motivations for murdering somebody.
He never just commits a for the lack of a better word, he never just commits a raw murder. You know what I mean? Like, it's always,
he's not cold-blooded in his murder.
No, it's always, this is gonna sound dumb, but it's always a quote-unquote good reason, if you know what I mean. Like, for example, for example,
let's take the ship bombing scene.
Yeah,
where that guy was gonna blow everybody up, and then you had the situation where you had Obi-Wan, and then you had Satine, both aiming at him, and neither one of them was going to do it. Anakin didn't have any problem stabbing him in the back, no less. In the back, not even up front like a regular warrior. Cut him down. And you can hear the little Vader thing.
I always love...
He's like, oh, it's whatever. He was going to blow up the ship.
Yeah, but I always love... I always love Obi-Wan's, like, reactions, well, just... Anakin.
He's like, what? He was gonna blow up the ship. He made a literal joke about murdering someone because Anakin knew that all his friends would die if he didn't do something. So that's what he did.
Yeah,
and he did the same thing with what was the admiral that was
Trench,
the spider admiral.
Trench.
Yeah, Admiral Trench. He did the same. Well, honestly, that's more of a Vader thing. That was more of a Vader kill whenever he murked him. It was like, I thought Jedi didn't have weaknesses. I have no such weakness. That was not Anakin. Straight up Vader speaking.
No, but like at the same time, like obviously we conclude that to being Vader. But like when you read the comics as well, like in a situation like that, I wouldn't have put it past. Even if I didn't know about what Vader was, I wouldn't really have been shocked because as well, like he knew what fucking horrible person Trench was. So I wouldn't have put it past him to just do that as well. And as we talked about motivation, Trench had killed shit ton of people, and like he's a massacre.
On what's his name, Paul the Lesser.
Yeah.
When Anakin paid him a visit for not giving up where Ahsoka was. Oh yeah, that was some real fun times that he showed Poggle the Lesser. Anakin really only gets his angry form whenever people are in the opposition to harm his friends.
Yeah.
And that's throughout the whole Clone Wars, that's all he's did, just take out people who are going to harm his friends or himself.
Yeah.
I'll give you another prime example. What's the Mad Doctor with the Blue Shadow virus?
Oh yeah.
He was about to murk him right there on the Senate pad. But Obi-Wan stopped him because Padme was going to die, and Ahsoka, his two most favored people, honestly, in the whole world. And he was about to stab him
And
right
Rex.
then and there and kill him. Yeah, and Rex. Yeah, and Rex. All of his favorite people were dying in that one bunker. And had he been by himself, that doctor would have been dead for sure. There's no questions. But Obi-Wan spared him. He's like, but he did also make a joke. There is more than one way to skin a womp rat, which is just another way of saying that there's another way to fix the solution without killing someone who's hurting your friends or making you upset. But all of these reasons are focal points that familial bonds and loyalty mean everything to Anakin. And so when you threaten that relationships, when you cause harm to these relationships, he will take you down.
Yeah.
And that's what he did throughout his entire Clone Wars.
Which is exactly why he threw Palpatine off whenever Palpatine was using the lightning on Luke, and Luke was gonna die right next to him.
Yeah. And I remember in the Clone Wars, the slave storyline, when they're on that planet with Dooku and stuff. Like I remember, like when you remember when the Wolf Pack has to come and save the slaves at the end. I remember
the Buddhas.
Like or there are actually two storylines that I would point out. I'll take this one second. The first one is I remember in the start of season 5. When they're on this planet and you see one of the parts that enraged Anakin, and you know that if he had been alone, he would have fucking killed this guy. When they're in that village and this guy is up in the tower, and then this guy calls Obi-Wan, I think it is, and Anakin just takes the comm and just goes like fucking,
I'll take that slave
and it just goes like fucking slave trader scum or something, and you just see the fucking rage in him. It's like,
oh my god!
It's like had Anakin been alone, I promise you, every fucking droid around there fucking dead, and everyone up in that fucking building dead straight away.
That's Nigerian on it. Yeah. He was gonna kill him on the ship too, but Ahsoka spared his life as well. My god, dude! And
then back to
I love that quote that he says.
Yeah. Like when it comes to like even like Rex doing something, is I remember when they're in that control room, Rex and Obi-Wan, and this like the chief of them, he goes like, a Jedi doesn't kill, and then Obi-Wan just looks at Rex, who picks up the staff and just throws it at him and just goes, I'm no Jedi.
Like, I'm not a Jedi.
Yeah, and it's like that's also one of the reasons I think that Anakin and Rex got along so much, is that neither of them are too, like, I'm not saying that Rex wouldn't have killed him, because any clone would probably have done that, but I'm saying that the lack of being by the book and the way of, when it comes to it, just use your common sense and then just fucking use your brain and don't just think a bit more about the situation, think right about the situation. I think that when you then go a bit off the books, I think that's how, Anakin and Rex shared that. Anakin taught that down to Ahsoka, and I think that that's one of the things that Anakin really had that the Jedi failed in, is the way that the Jedi always go to by the book, which is one of the reasons that Obi-Wan failed Anakin as well, is because
he was the catalyst between the two of them.
Yeah,
of trying to please Anakin and please the Council, but
because
he realistically
Obi-Wan could be by the book. He could go off the books and go a bit off it, but for the most part, he was
like he did with
the book.
The Mandalorians. He wasn't even supposed to fight the Mandalorian people, but he did it for Satine.
Yeah,
that was like one of his few times he went off the books.
Yeah.
So I have a question, kind of branching off of something we said earlier. So say, everyone knows about the Marvel What If show. This kind of turned into that, but say Anakin at the scene when him and Obi-Wan are fighting. Say he kills Obi-Wan, and then later on becomes the Sith Lord that he is, but isn't Darth Vader. He is Darth Vader, but not with the armor, not with the respirator,
without the limitations.
Right.
That's full power.
That happened, and he killed Obi-Wan. I understand the Sith are how they are. They do fight amongst themselves. So would that lead to a battle later on down between Darth Vader?
I think that Anakin,
Oh, really?
because he was obviously on a high, as we see, like, he says you underestimate my power. I think that the role, essentially, for lack of a better word, that Anakin is on, and how up there he is right now, I think that he would have gone something along the lines of, like, he's killed Obi-Wan. Now he goes, okay, now I'm gonna get this power, and I'm gonna fucking I'm going to have Padme, and I'm going to get the control or whatever I deserve. I think he would just be so clouded after killing Obi-Wan that he would have gone straight for Palpatine. And I actually think, and this might be a bit of a shout, but I think that he would have killed Palpatine as well, considering the steamroll that he is on at this point.
There's only one other solution. There's only one other thing that could catalyze that, and I'm going to pull Legend continuity because it still applies. When Vader had control of Starkiller and he used Juno to keep Starkiller in line for a little bit,
Yeah,
I feel as though Palpatine would be smart enough to do the same thing to Vader, or try to at least to keep Anakin in line. And if that is the case, then in the end, Palpatine was going to die anyway because Luke was still going to be born. Luke was still going to be born, and then Padme still died. Luke would have still been born, and he still would have met Anakin on the Death Star too, to kill Palpatine. And regardless,
but I also
so
think
that's
that
not too much of a branching off.
I also think that the
Well,
difference
yeah, but
there,
not. I understand he would kill Palpatine, but with the unfold of events, say he is the leader of the Sith now at this point, would Maul, because Vader had stolen Maul's revenge for killing Obi-Wan, would Maul come after Vader? And if so, how would that
Probably
unfold?
so.
Who
I
would
would
win?
believe that's actually a pretty good question. I feel like that's realistically that could possibly be the case because of course no one hated Obi-Wan more than Maul.
but
Maul would have gone.
I think that
Maul would have probably gone after him,
yeah.
but it would have failed too.
I think, because there's obviously the comic where they end up fighting. I think that Anakin, considering in that comic that it's a tight battle, but Vader still essentially comes out on top pretty much. I think that without the Vader suit and without, again, the limitations, I think that Anakin would have made quick work
He'd have curved stomped him.
of Maul. And on the thing
Ahsoka even says it.
Yeah.
Whenever Ahsoka's fighting Maul has such reverence and respect for Anakin, but he's never met Anakin except whenever he was a little boy, and they never spoke.
Try to run him over.
But Maul has
try to run him over
and respect for him, and then Ahsoka literally speaks up to him like, "If Anakin was here instead of me, you would have died."
Yeah, it's like you would have been dead. Yeah. But also, I think
you would have died if Anakin was here.
You said the thing about Palpatine using Padme against him, but I think that the first thought is, well, Padme is probably smart enough to do something about that. But also, I think that
I feel like that would have been his last resort.
Yeah,
to keep him in line.
Yeah, but also I think that if he would have gotten to Padme and been able to use that, I think Anakin would have been smart enough to get around that in some sort of way. I think you see that during the Clone Wars, in the comics, and even in the movies, that Anakin's
plenty of people have captured Padme.
But the Anakin's smarts and his problem-solving abilities, his way of getting out of situations, I think that he could pretty easily countered Palpatine's use of Padme against him.
I don't know. That's a bit of a debate considering how smart Palpatine is, because he was raised by one of the smartest Sith to ever come about was Plagueis.
Yeah.
And Plagueis was a very highly intellectual being, and Palpatine was an aristocrat. He had all the education that Anakin never did. So I don't know. That's kind of arguable.
Yeah. It's definitely arguable, but it's just my opinion is that I think that Anakin would have figured out a way around it.
I think that's playing to the fire a little bit.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Yeah. It's definitely a debate to have.
It is. Well, with that answer, we'll go ahead and us us co-hosts, we're all we're eating this up right now. Let's let Kogi go ahead and ask a question or put in a topic that he
Yeah,
might
please.
have.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
No,
It's just kind
This
of
is
kind
my
of roll.
topic of choice.
like I said,
I
you
love
are
Vader
like
more than anything in the whole world.
Yeah.
I could talk about this for hours, but I'm
Yeah.
so sorry.
you're
Please
gonna love
talk.
this next question. Don't worry about it. No, like I said, I'm just listening to you, and I'm literally just sat here by myself thinking. It's like I'm a spectator of the podcast itself, and I'm sat here by myself in silence thinking, yeah. So yeah.
If you have
Use the
anything,
brains.
just
Yeah.
chip in, bro. Like you can.
No, yeah. You guys were brainstorming, and I was literally just sat there, just thinking about the situation myself.
Yeah.
So it is another one. So obviously we all know the famous transition of Vader. Obviously, when he kills me, well, not himself, but he betrays his wife, and so on and so forth. But including all the canon films and obviously the Clone Wars series, when do you feel is the key point that Vader is born inside Anakin? Obviously, he doesn't transition until Episode 3.
Whenever he's born, or whenever he rises, because those are two different questions.
When do you feel that dark side inside Anakin first appears?
Oh, that's a very easy
first
question.
appears.
Oh,
That's when his mother died.
I have
like,
yeah,
not
I
like,
like
mother
that.
died.
Not like Surf. Do you think that's the key event?
That is
So, yeah, I
that's
have-
the key event when Vader was born in Anakin. Because before that, all Anakin wanted was his mother to be alive, and then the Jedi stole that away from him by not letting his mom come back, and then the Tusken Raiders killed off his mom. So yeah, that's his first major event of Vader being born, because he had little skirmishes and troubles with the Jedi before, of them making fun of him and all, and not accepting him. But when his mother died, that is the pinnacle point of when Vader was born.
Well,
and when he has struggled that whole time as his adolescence as a Jedi.
But Kogi, wait, just hold one second, because it's Kogi's question, and I assume usually with questions like this, it comes from a personal thought. So I assume, do you have a theory on what you think is the moment, Kogi?
Yes, please.
Obviously, there are the key points. So obviously, being taken away from his mother in the first place, he was confused. He wasn't really angry at that time, but I feel like, at the same time, it was a great time of sadness for him.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, there is the moment you guys spoke of, when his key moment when his mother died. I just wanted to see your views, and if you thought there was different points in his life, when Vader was born.
Yeah.
And obviously just see the different points of views that you guys had.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, 100%. One of the main points, obviously, when his mother died.
Yeah.
So I think I have two answers to this. I believe the first point is, yes, whenever he is there and his mother died and he strikes down all the Raiders because of it. I think that was kind of putting the fuel on the log. But I think the match that really set the flame to become fully Darth Vader, and he was Anakin no longer, up until the point with Luke. I think what really completed that transition into Darth Vader was that epic Rogue One scene when he's in the hallway and he just has no remorse and no mercy to anyone in that hall, and he just cuts everybody down.
Oh,
That
yes.
is the number one time where you truly see the awesomeness and the power that is Darth Vader, and is not Anakin anymore. He's just purely just full Sith at that point, and that is really, I believe, the true birth of Darth Vader at that point.
We already talked about this before, but Vader was
Go on.
basically toying with those men. He
Yeah.
wasn't even remotely going any type of full power with them. He was toying with them.
To me, though, I'm along the lines of Deadpool. I think there are two moments, but I have two moments that neither of you guys have put out, and that is, and this is going to you might need. I'm not saying that you do need. You might need your tinfoil hats for this one, and that is that is when Ahsoka gets pushed out of the Order.
Oh my God! I forgot.
Because I think that all faith that Anakin had in that fucking Order is
God
straight out the
died
window.
watching
Straight out the window. That fucking moment. That is when he goes, okay, this is all fucking bullshit. And then, because that's all also what Ahsoka realized. But then, we can go into that point because it seemed like that was a good one. But another point that I don't think gets talked about enough is when they meet the brother and the sister. And that when he, well, for one, he realizes, like, obviously he's always known that he's powerful and everyone knows that. But when you have two births of the Force, you make them both fucking kneel at the same time, that's when you know you got some fucking power. And also, when he's down in the cave, obviously the brother takes over his mind. But him seeing all this stuff also plants that in him. He saw every tragedy, and him in his head then, when you see all the tragedies that you have gone through and you're going to go through, I think that fucks with your head. Definitely. So I think those two moments, I think, don't get talked about enough. I think that those two moments are two of the most important moments within Anakin's life in general, is when he meets births of the Force. He meets them and experiences everything he experiences there. And then also, when Ahsoka gets pushed out of the Order. Those two moments, I think, are some of the most important moments in his life. And the Ahsoka thing
I want to speak on that moment that you said with the brother, because even after he met the brother, even though like his mind got erased by the father after that, in the line you can hear him say, "I know it is the Jedi who stand in the way of peace." Even he knows at that point that the Jedi are bullshit and that they're liars, they're corrupt, and that they're holding back and they're just edging on a war that they were never supposed to be involved in. He knows that from that start. And he knows it's the Jedi who are going to hold him back and hold the rest of the galaxy back with their corrupted ways. That point is pinnacle.
You mentioned Ahsoka being pushed out of the Order. I think off of what Kogi said, what was the birth of Darth Vader, I think there was obviously all of that created Darth Vader, that really turned him over to the dark side. But then there was the one scene that everyone remembers that really turned him to start to become Anakin again. And I believe that scene is when he picked up Ahsoka's lightsaber. And he just, you see the pain and the guilt inside of him
sadness.
come out. The sadness.
When he turns on that lightsaber, you see the sadness when he turns on that lightsaber of him really just lamenting, they're all gone now. They're all dead.
He thinks
just
that's
one
the
more
Jedi.
dead friend that I have on my list. Because at that point, he might have tried to recruit Ahsoka after that. But before then, the Jedi were gone at that point, if I'm correct.
Pretty much.
Like the Jedi were gone. They were pretty much gone whenever he found Ahsoka's lightsaber. Because that was like the last person he held close. Because at that point, Padme's dead. Obi-Wan's gone.
But also,
all the rest of the Jedi are dead. And now he picks up his dead Padawan's lightsaber, and you can just feel the sadness.
But also, one thing that I want to point out with when Ahsoka gets pushed out of the Order, right? There are a lot of factors that go into why I think that is pivotal to this. First, you have the one of them just not believing her at all. They don't even put in the fact that it's like if I have a friend and they get someone else says like, oh, they did something. If I know them well enough, I'm gonna go, no, there's someone else involved in this, right? The fact that they don't even consider that, okay, well, she's Anakin's Padawan and all this, and she's been through all this, and Obi-Wan usually trusts her, so she probably hasn't done it. Don't even consider it. Boom, out of the Order. All right, let's put everyone on her to fucking chase her down. All right, that's one point. Then, another point. Obviously, we know about, like Tyrannus and stuff like that. He used to be a Jedi. But I think that when he figures out it is Barriss, one of Ahsoka's best friends, who has betrayed her, who's also a very by-the-book Jedi, just like her master, Luminara. I think that he also, when he realizes that obviously the fight is fucking epic and he fucking destroys her with all his fucking power, which was a bit satisfying if I'm being honest. I think that is also a moment where he lost all faith in, okay, a by-the-book Jedi with such a good teacher, and also a by-the-book teacher, leaves everything behind. She turns because of Ventress, and she fucking frames her best friend. That's also a point where I think, okay, now he lost even more faith, because he's like, well, no one here is fucking loyal anyways, so what the fuck is this? What's the point? And then when he also realizes that Ahsoka is like, well, like when there's no chance of her coming back, but then they realize that they're fucking wrong. But Anakin, by the way, is the one who had to fucking figure this out. No one else did anything. No one else went into it. They just assumed, okay, it's Ahsoka, done. But Anakin decides, okay, I'm gonna do some fucking research. Okay, it's Barriss. Then now they want her back. Now that they realize that they made a mistake. Now they give her another chance. She goes, no, I'm done. And I think that Anakin, I actually think when they walked into the room and they wanted to offer her a chance back, I don't even think that Anakin expected her to say yes. Because I think that he was conflicted in the sense that he wanted her to come back, which we see at the end. But I don't think that he expected it realistically. Because I think that he knew that Ahsoka was on the same page as him now. Their faith in the Order, gone, out the window. There isn't anything more now. There's no way of having faith in them because they don't have loyalty, they don't trust anyone, and they don't even give people a chance. And I think that he lost all faith that he had left, because he's lost faith before. But I think he lost all faith there and then. And any moment that we see after, whether that is reaching out because of Padme or anything, I think that's just a cry for help and a last resort, because he has no one else to go to because of the way that the Jedi function. He has no one else to go to. So he goes to the only people that he knows that he can go to, but guess what? He doesn't trust them because he's no faith in them. So I think that he was distraught and broken with all his faith from that point on. And that, I think, is a pivotal moment in him becoming Vader, because the entire point of him becoming Vader is to save Padme, and because he's also partly sick of how the Jedi run. And I think that that's why the moment with Ahsoka getting banished is the moment in my eyes that might have flipped him the most.
I agree. Yeah, that's definitely one of the top moments that really flipped that stone over.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I loved this conversation, but I have to unfortunately go to work.
Yeah, and I think that's a good place to wrap up as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, this has been absolutely amazing. I think we've gotten a few good conversations out now. Kogi, thank you so much for joining. It has been a pleasure to have you on. You're always welcome back, bro. Always.
Thank you very much.
So, yeah. So, anyone want to roll the outro? Anyone want to say some final thanks and goodbyes, or?
Let's let our guest go ahead and say goodbye to all of our watchers and all that, and close us out.
Yeah.
Lovely.
I agree.
So, thanks for being with us tonight, guys. Obviously, you've got your host, Ferno.
Yep.
Ferno. We've got your other guys on the High Council, Deadpool.
Yep, here, and thank you so much for watching, guys.
You got your other guy on the High Council, Vector.
This has been Vector signing out. I hope to see you all again, and I can't wait to come back for another great discussion on the High Council Podcast.
Yeah.
Stay tuned, and please hit that like, on this video. It helps us out great.
And subscribe to the channel, guys. Come on.
Subscribe.
Thank you all for watching. Thank you, Kogi, again
Peace.
for coming in, and just
no problem, dude.
Take a little goodbye, Kogi.